Do you see Russell Westbrook being able to play well with LeBron and AD?
So Russell Westbrook is like the greatest battleground in the NBA's modern culture war because he is incredible to watch. He does so many things that make you think, I think he's the most athletic player we may have ever seen. And then you look at like statistics and you're like, wow, this dude is also the worst three-point shooter that there's ever been. And he has been unrepentant in terms of taking a lot of field goals and missing more of them by percentage than anybody else over like the last half decade. So that is where we are with Russell Westbrook. And now he is LeBron James's solution and also possibly his problem, because I can't be so optimistic about Russell Westbrook on this team. Okay. Because what they need is they need somebody who fits, and what they have is a guy who's going to demand that other people fit around him. And so is it a good thing that Anthony Davis is going to have to play the 5 because Russell Westbrook and him and another center can't possibly coexist? I do think that's great. But as somebody who has ridden in the past for unnamed players with shooting problems, I believe that in the postseason, there will be half-court situations, and LeBron James, who loves this guy right now, may be driven insane.
Okay, so I think that is probably right. That's the closest to the true take. But here's the challenge. Let's figure out how we make this a good team. And it didn't take me long to think about it. It's D Wade, right? Like, he's a modern, also old D Wade, right? Then they won championships down there. So now we have a lesser LeBron than back then, and probably a lesser D Wade when he was in his prime back then. The only upgrade you potentially have is if you're saying AD is Chris Bosh in that situation. AD is a greater Chris Bosh. So potentially you could make this work, but the same problems that they're going to have there in LA are the same problems that they had down in Miami. And it's the same problems, frankly, that everyone has in the NBA. You need 3-and-D guys. You need them. You need someone to shoot and to lock down on the other end. And that is not what LeBron or Russell Westbrook or AD, I guess defensively is valuable, but none of these guys are the 3 part of the 3-and-D, which we all accept is a big part of the modern NBA. So yes, it's going to be a challenge, but it is nice to have someone who LeBron can hand the offense off to and is not going to be afraid. He can hand it off through long stretches of the regular season, maybe even some stretches in the postseason, because that's what we saw. When LeBron's off the floor, they ain't good. So maybe that is the best positive spin I can put on this, is that maybe they aren't on the floor at the same time and they can just give LeBron a rest and say, Russ, here you go. Give us 8 solid minutes of offense.
For a second, I thought you were actually suggesting they bring back D Wade.
Oh, yeah, no. I was also
I was like, whoa, like a full on Randall Cobb. I mean, that's not really fair. Randall Cobb can actually, he's still a NFL player, but
wow, shade in every direction.
Yeah, no, I mean, but this is where we are always with Russell Westbrook. He is one of my favorite players to watch and least favorite players to talk about for this very reason. Pablo, as you said, every conversation about him becomes like a weird referendum on both his entire career and also the state of the modern NBA.
Yes, nerds.
We are wrestling with a very specific question, which is how does he actually fit on this team? How, as Domonique tried to work through, can we make it work on this team? Foxworth, I agree with you. Like, I think he brings something to the table, which is he will eat up minutes during the regular season and can be a secondary playmaker. But the problem, as Pablo said, is what he doesn't bring to the table, which is, well, Domonique said this too, 3-point shooting. Right now, there is only one player on the Lakers roster who made over 100 threes last year, and his name is LeBron James. Like, I don't understand how you can look at this and think it ends well. We know LeBron and AD need shooting, and yet somehow someone decided it was a good idea to bring the worst. He's not the worst 3-point shooter. He's just the worst 3-point shooter who also happens to take a lot of shots.
Yes. It's a key distinction.
Like,
it's a key distinction.
It just
and it's like, do you think? Well, and it's the question of like, do you think he's ever going to change? And look, anybody who has watched him or interacted with him or seen him dance, even like, no, he's going to do all of those things unrepentantly. Even if we all think he's not as good as he thinks he is in any of the things I mentioned.
This is the thing that I think all 3 of us feared about this, is whenever you're having, and this is why you called it the culture war of the modern NBA, whenever you're having this Russell Westbrook discussion, you end up seeming like you don't value him or you don't appreciate him. I think all three of us love him as a star player. We enjoy watching him, but we recognize that he is kind of the central puzzle piece that you have to fit things around, but he's also not big enough to build a puzzle around, if that makes any sense. That was a nice Pablo jump pass metaphor.
I was like, it's like Oceania and Risk. I'm trying to think of like, he's not Park Place in Monopoly.
Oh, gosh.
But
here it is. I
also,
figured
like,
out.
Chutes
Here's
and
the
Ladders
solution.
thing.
Here's the solution. AD doesn't want to play the 5. Russell, his most production was at the dunker
That's
spot
true.
down in
That's
Houston.
true.
Here we go. Let's roll out a 6'3" center.
So to recap here, the way this goes really well per Domonique Foxworth's consulting firm advice is if LeBron James and Anthony Davis get brutally injured and don't play for you, Russell Westbrook at center can go better than you might think.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.